Welcome to Schooling Around. Today we go international, China in particular. We update our program here, and we see how one of our own found his way there. Stay tuned. In recent years, the Oxford International Program has been a rather touchy issue. We've been working with the Wei Ming organization, bringing kids to our high school for an enriched cultural experience, not to mention a big profit. A couple of years ago, our Chinese kids numbered around 50 or 60, and most lived in our homes. Then there was talk of Wei Ming building a dorm here to house a couple hundred. That's when some eyebrows raised. We changed school superintendents, and there was a shift in gears. Now we have around 80 kids, some in local homes, many in a dorm in Troy. There's also been a recent change with our contract with Wei Ming. Instead of 20 years, it's 5. Now tuition can be increased to meet expenses, and now it's no longer exclusive with Wei Ming. In other words, we can make agreements with other countries. In addition, there's been a lot of concern about getting our kids to socialize more. We're trying something new. I stopped for a chat with Superintendent Tim Throne.
I guess I would just say this too, just from an update on our international program. I think that while we have done many activities to increase the interaction between domestic and international students, we know that we're not perfect and we still got to work to get there. This year, one of the coolest things that we're trying out is we've started an intramural program. And the intramural program was something that, I had heard people talk about 10, 15 years ago, and we've never been able to do it. This year, we were able to start that at the high school, and that's open to all students, not just international students, but start an intramural program after school that allows all of our students to really come together, learn more about each other in a fun way of sports and activities.
Throne also mentioned we're getting the Chinese kids involved in our language classes. This is so our kids taking Chinese will be able to practice it with someone Chinese. He also reestablished the goal of the program.
From our standpoint, we are trying to create the best international experience possible, not only for those students who are coming from other countries, but also for our domestic students, right?
Sure.
We don't want it to be a surprise for them that when they go on to a career or a workplace or go on to a college, interacting with students from multiple countries. We don't want that to be their first experience.
Sure.
We want them to be confident in their own skills, be confident in how they can communicate with people from different cultural backgrounds, different languages, those types of things. And so while we know we haven't arrived yet, I think we're real excited about all of the activities that we're doing this year to enhance our programming.
Next, we talk with one of our own, an Oxford High School senior who made up his mind he wanted to do more than socialize. He wanted to visit the homeland. Back in a moment.
Hey Leonard, you're watching OCTV.
If I say the name Stublinsky, it might be familiar. Danielle works at the board office downtown. There's another Stublinsky, her son. His name is Michael. He's a senior at OHS, and he went on an amazing journey a couple of months ago, in more ways than one. Earlier this year, Michael made up his mind he wanted to go to China.
Now, first of all, you just came back from a trip to China, so obviously you've got a great interest in the world at large, the international picture. What are you, how did you gain that interest? What sparked your mind to be interested in doing something like that?
We started the international program 7 years now. Just learning Chinese or Spanish, and being an automotive mind. I mean, that's my passion, is the automotive industry, and seeing where everything is now. In Europe and in Asia and stuff like that. I really wanted to be able to use my knowledge of Chinese, and being able to use that to my advantage to get farther places in the automotive industry. So we've got a lot of guys, whether it's my dad's friends or family, that go to China a lot for their work. And I figured that if I've got that passion and drive to go into the automotive industry, I might as well use that as an extra tool in my tool bag.
Have you been studying the Chinese language here at Oxford?
I have.
How many
correct.
years have you had Chinese?
Since I was in 7th grade, so
And you're a senior now?
correct. So about 6 years.
Wow, so you can say 1 or 2 Chinese words.
If you-
You can order things off a menu.
Yes, I got very good at doing that.
Okay, how did the opportunity arise for you to make this trip to China that you just went on?
I actually, so in the talking to my Chinese teacher, Miss Lee, we said, I'm gone through AP Chinese. What is the next step after that? She says, truly, for you to learn any more, you would have to go to China. I can go take college classes, I can do that, but for me to really understand and get that mindset of what, China is truly about, rather than reading it online or in a book or trying to speak it, she really recommended me to go there. So we were talking about it, and we're good friends with Matt Gibb, who is pretty, one of the head of our kind of foreign relations in the community, and says, hey, I go to China multiple times a year.
Now, Matt Gibb is not associated with the school district, is he?
Not school district, he's with Oakland County.
Okay.
And so we had started talking. He says, if you would like to go with me, that's for sure. So we started talking, and with the way Chinese government works out, they're very last minute. They don't like planning things out as much as we do, which may sound weird, and it's really hard to understand, but that's just how they work. So I ended up not going on that trip, but within that same week, we had, my family owns a Powerhouse gym, so I was actually sitting down doing homework after work. And a guy came up and said, hey man, what are you doing? I said, I'm doing Chinese. He says, I just came back from China. I'm a teacher there at a agricultural university. So he's an English teacher to Chinese students.
Who is this again?
His name is Benjamin Jubelt.
Okay.
So he lives in China, and comes here every other year to visit his family. His family is originally from Oxford. And he says, and I was kind of like, ha ha ha, thank you for the invitation. This wasn't very thinking about it. And we got a call about 2 months later and said, hey, is Mikey still, interested in coming to China? And, my dad and I kind of were both, surprised, like, are you really serious? And so he says, you know what, if this, wants this to happen, we're going to make it happen. So.
So he knew the right people, apparently.
Correct, yep.
Okay, so it's one thing to get your mind around this, but what about your wallet?
Obviously looking at a trip like that, it's very expensive. Plane ticket in the thousands of dollars. And I luckily, was trying to figure out what I can do, try and alleviate that stress for my parents to come up with the money, or me working. And so I actually created a GoFundMe page, and had, I couldn't ask for anything more. My family and friends were wonderful. Said, you know what, you were, for you to be able to go to this trip is more an experience for your life. They would be more happy to donate. So they donated, and my trip was 100% paid for by loving family and friends, and that was more than I could ever ask for.
So this wasn't a school trip.
Was not.
This wasn't a trip with your parents. This was a trip that you kind of fell into by meeting this particular individual who was able to make the proper governmental arrangements.
Correct.
For you to go there.
Yes.
Well, you had to be ready to fly at the last minute almost.
Yep,
didn't you?
I had a 2-month window from going, I'm staying here, to going, I'm going to China by myself, buy my own plane ticket, and I'm going to say goodbye for a month.
So, okay, maybe you already partially answered this. Why did you want to go there?
I felt like for me to go in the future, right now in the business, it's very competitive, and between going to college or getting a job application, all that stuff, it's very competitive. And for that one thing to kind of set you apart from others, I was able to go, and this is kind of my little extra thing that can set me apart from others, in the job field or in college. And it's something that I love and enjoy, and I find great interest into, and will find that it will set me up in the future.
Okay, so what's going through your mind as you're sitting there on that airplane waiting to land in China?
The plane trip was about 30 hours, so by the time I left the ground until
you had a lot of time to think about it.
I had a lot of time. I was the first few days I was very nervous, even just going on the plane. I said, what am I gonna, when I go over there, am I gonna get looked at weird? How am I gonna do with my language? Is all of this years of learning, is it gonna pay off? How am I gonna react? And trying to go, all right, if I'm gonna go on this trip, what am I gonna learn from this trip, and take away as much as I could.
So after you landed and the door to the plane opened and you were walking out and getting your first sight of the scenery over there, and which city was it you landed in?
I landed first in Shanghai.
Shanghai.
And then stayed there for about 8 hours.
Okay, what was your first reaction as your eyeballs took in your very first look at the scenery after getting off the plane?
I was I was amazed, to be able to be like, I'm the only one, in my family or friends, or I could count on my fingers how many people have truly seen the other side of the world, to just, know what that looks like. So that was kind of, trying to process that was pretty amazing.
Now, did you have kind of an itinerary set up ahead of time, or did you fly by the seat of your pants once you got over?
We had sort of an itinerary. I lived where I was at. It was Qingdao, which is kind of far eastern, central part of China. It's a port town, so their seafood was amazing. So we had planned to stay a week in Beijing, to see this, the sites there and go through that.
And by we, you're talking about?
Ben and I.
Okay.
So that was kind of our plan, but after that we got there and just, he's a teacher, so during the summer I was in his 2-week off because they have all year round schooling. So in the 2 weeks that they were off, was the 2 weeks 4 weeks. The 4 weeks I was there, he was off of school. And so he had actually, to kind of supplement, he wanted to get me, introduced to some kids rather than just seeing all adults. He had some private tutoring that was in a classroom at an elementary school. So a few days in the morning there, I got to go to the elementary school and talk to the kids, and be able to teach them English as well as them, to teach me Chinese as well. So that was cool to converse with them.
Anything that surprised you about the atmosphere of the schools over there that you visited?
It was very communal. Everything over there is very much for the community rather than the individual. A lot of here in America, we focus on the individual. That's your grade. That's how you react. We're over there. It's very much a group, all trying to complete a single task.
So what was your way of looking at this once you got there? You'll find out in a moment.
Canine Stray Rescue is Oxford's own local dog rescue. Call them at 248-628-0435 or go to their website dogsaver.org and click on the Canine Stray Rescue League link.
So how did our Michael get a focus on all this? Well, it was just a matter of taste.
That was kind of my lens in the beginning was through food. I feel like food is a huge part of culture as well as China. So that was way, kind of the food took us to see the culture. So.
You're my kind of guy, I've always wanted to know if General Tso was really Chinese.
Yep. No, the Chinese food over there, it's complete. I can't describe it. Everyone always hears like, oh, have you tried this Chinese food? It's so Chinese. But it's completely different. It's so hard to explain. But
was it different? Good for you?
It's different good. I had so many amazing, different flavors. I had, everything from cow tongue to liver to, chicken heart. It may sound crazy, but I said, you know what, if this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, I might as well take it as far as I can and see where it goes.
How long were you over there altogether?
Just over 3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay, so what was your next stop? After you left the schools, give me an idea of the places you went.
We went to so Qingdao is actually known in 2008 was the Beijing Olympics. And Qingdao is where they held all the sailing events. And so we went to Qingdao City and got to visit the park. It's called the Olympic Park. It's now a big marina where they store a lot of yachts and boats and stuff like that. And so I got to really see, where the Olympics were held and see the marina that it was, what brought the whole country, the whole world to see, Qingdao, which is very cool.
Okay, any of the other major sites of China that you had the opportunity?
Yes, so after that, we took a bullet train to Beijing, which was amazing. It was the first time I've been on a bullet train. Going that fast on the ground just felt, crazy, because we don't have anything like that here in America. After we got to Beijing, we packed as much as we possibly could in that 6 day time. We started off looking at the Great Wall of China. So you see, in pictures, the Great Wall as being a beautiful, structure that was, man-made, and there's people everywhere, all over. I wanted the more true experience of it, so we ended up hiking up into the mountains and going to the wall where it was not preserved. It was the actual wall from when it was built. It has not been touched by human hands, enhanced, built, since it was originally built. So you climbed on there, you climbed up a hill and found a crack in the wall, and you climbed through it. And I didn't see anyone for 5 hours. We hiked the wall, and I didn't see a single person outside of myself and Ben.
So what was your impression of the so-called original wall?
It was breathtaking to be above there and say, people have walked on this wall for thousands of years. And how many other humans have been able to stand on this exact point, and see the sights I saw, and hear and smell, and what happened at the wall during, in history. I'm a pretty big history guy as well, and to really know what happened, through the ages. So after we went to the wall, we went downtown city, and we ended up, Beijing is known for their duck. The way they cook it and prepare it is kind of a delicacy. So we went to one of the restaurants that served it and had a full meal. So the way they make it, they bring it to you in the full duck, and it's golden brown. And the way they bring it to you is on a big platter, and they've got one of the chefs come by with the full thing. And the first thing they do is they take off the skin. And the skin is nothing like I've ever had before. You wrap it up in a leaf of some sort that you can either take it just the skin itself, but you put it in your mouth, and you can press your tongue to the top of your mouth with it, and it just disintegrates. I can't explain the flavor. It's just there's nothing in America or anything close to it that I could explain it.
You sound very interested in food. Are you thinking of starting a restaurant sometime?
No. It's just something I enjoy, as it kind of comes with it. So after we had gone through that, we went shopping, and jewelry over there is all jade, so I really got to see that. And so one of the main hubs or kind of tourist attractions of Beijing as well is called the Pearl Market. So over here in America, we don't really get to bargain for many things, and that was the funnest part. I had a lot of fun, not arguing with them, but bargaining with the Chinese people. And still, my favorite thing is, having them try to speak kind of broken English because they realize I'm American, and for me to respond in Chinese and watch their facial expression, and their surprise that I had answered was awesome. I couldn't describe anything better than that.
With a trip like this, you'd think there might be one or two surprises along the way. We'll check on that next. When you're visiting a different culture in a different land, there's bound to be some unexpecteds.
We always hear about the smog and how dirty the air is in the larger cities in China. And I got very, very lucky with the time I went. It was very clear out. They had some of the clearest days they've had in years. But I got to experience one day. I went to the Olympic Park and actually got to see the bird's nest and the water cube where they had the Olympics at. And that was very smoggy. The air was very hard to breathe in. It was almost like you had kind of, something sitting on your chest. It was just your lungs burned, which was a very weird feeling. We get, very clean air here. So it's nothing I've ever experienced.
How do you feel you were treated as an American? How did people look at you once they realized where you came from?
I had a lot of people. That's crazy. Like over there, they are very open. I get very many questions. Where I was from, how old was I? What am I in school? One of the biggest things that still surprised me, I had so many people just come up and look and just stare at me. And after a while, I would always ask, why did they do that? And in some of the parts that I went was very rural. They had actually said they've never seen blue eyes in their lives before. They're so used to always seeing black or brown eyes that they didn't think it was real. They thought that whatever they saw in a magazine, in a TV show, was fake, and they didn't realize that blue eyes were real. So that was the first time that some of those people have ever seen blue eyes in their lives.
Do you feel that your experience during this trip changed your world perspective at all?
Definitely. This trip, I've learned so many, ways to respect people, and, to be able to put myself in other people's shoes and to, respect where other people's views are from and how to not only just, think of my perspective on situations and arguments, but be able to look at it from another person's perspective and see how, maybe that might change my view.
As far as memories go, I asked what would be at the top of his list.
I think just meeting new people and seeing, so we have, in China, they love America. I mean, they try and, their culture wants to revolve around it. Now, more and more, they're, adopting more Western views. And so they always feel that, America is too good for China, or that we feel like we're the best. And for me to come over as an American and, being able to, I felt like I was representing our country. And by doing this and, showing, us well, and watching their smiles and knowing that, hey, they actually care about us and I was interested in their culture, it made them feel good, not only about our culture, but, how they felt, America was about China.
Okay, let's look at the other side of the coin. What memory or experience made you the saddest during this trip?
I got to experience what communism kind of is. Obviously in America, not any of us really has ever experienced that. So experiencing, a different government like that and how controlling they are in their aspects and stuff like that was a definite kind of eye-opening, and being able to realize how lucky we are to have, the government and the freedom that we have here.
Did you, I kind of get the impression from what other people have said that society and communism over there is like two different levels. It's like, okay, so the government is communist, but the people are the people, and that their attitude toward the government is, okay, it's there and we got to be careful we don't do certain things, but it's not like a religion to them.
Correct.
It's their government, and they're going to try and get away with as much as they can without getting, and I don't mean bad things, but try and be as free as they can.
Yes.
Without crossing the line.
Yep. So like one event that kind of opened my eyes really, I didn't have any government interference, I guess you could say, in my trip. I had actually had a few external batteries, and the battery from both of my cameras that I'd taken over there I tried to capture as much as I possibly could to bring back, kind of memories and, to show other people how it really is. They had actually taken that out of my bag without, knowing it all, and I had opened it up after, about a 9-hour flight, and seeing that all of my stuff was rummaged through. I had a few pretty expensive watches and stuff like that I brought with me that they had opened or taken out, and pretty much had left papers on top saying, these are the government's now, there's really no way possible that you can get them back, so kind of your loss, which was quite interesting.
Next, back home. Okay, so you've spent 3 weeks in China, now you're back. Any thoughts on putting it all together at school?
We felt that the international program is, it kind of goes through your valleys and peaks, or peaks and valleys, whatever you want to call it. But right now, we feel that we're kind of at a breaking point of where we want to take this international program to, what we want to do next. And so it's always awesome to see, the Chinese are always here. They're trying to learn as much as they possibly can from us. And so when I would tell them I went over to China, and specifically where I was at, their faces lit up because they love, seeing, members of our community, taking interest in their culture and where they're from, because it's so far and, in between that they get to see that.
And what about that socializing thing?
So obviously nothing can happen without that little, kind of spark. You can't, force a kid or a parent to, do something they don't want to. And I feel like it's not up to, a teacher to try and make us, mesh and talk together. I wish there was a simple answer that was could solve everything. But it really takes, this trip opened my eyes to, to see what they're going through, because I was in their shoes. And I feel like if, students here at Oxford were to have that same experience and go through those, it would open their hearts and open their minds and eyes to realize what they have here into, the sight of the world.
Okay, so this is your senior year. What happens next?
Next year, I plan on going to Kettering University and majoring in mechanical engineering. My kind of major plan, we're in Michigan. The motor city is Detroit. So that's kind of where we grew up, and that's very close to my heart. So I hope to work in the States for 5 to 6 years. Get with our automotive companies. But my ultimate kind of plan is to go over to Europe or follow with the trends of the automotive industry and become one of the leaders in whether design or engineering in the automotive field.
A remarkable young man. That's schooling around for this week. Thanks for Kyle Snage at the controls, Dan Weiss, our wonderful editor, and you for watching. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.